Hello, everyone. Welcome to Touchdown on True Sports, brought to you by Pickups, your everything on demand delivery app. My name is Chantel Alicia, and I'm going to be your host for today's show. Joining me are my analysts, Nolan Kangas, Luca Moya, and Stephen Clennon. Today, we're going to be giving you some insight on what's really happening with some of these teams, because I'm sure, as you guys would all agree with me when I say this was definitely a week full of major upsets for many teams. So to get us started, you guys have been given the job as GM, okay? And you're going to be handed a team that's struggling. So Nolan, you're going to be the GM of Atlanta. Stephen, you for Washington, and Luca, you have Detroit. So what I want to know is, Nolan, how are you going to help your team win and get into the playoffs on a consistent basis?
All right, so with Atlanta, obviously, they had to fire Dan Quinn because he was struggling big time. So I got to get myself a coach. So with that, I think Brian Daboll, what he's doing in Buffalo right now, Josh Allen, guys, he looked phenomenal yesterday in that game against the 49ers. The way he play designs is incredible. He's worked with some great minds like Nick Saban at Alabama. I think he would be a great fit in Atlanta. With Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. This is a really good offense, right? So he would script up some nice plays for them. The issue is that defense is really, really bad. They cannot get after the quarterback. Looked up some numbers. Steven Means is their highest-graded pass rusher according to Pro Football Focus. He has 2 sacks. Dante Fowler Jr., he was their big prize free agent who they got. He has 2 sacks. He has the second worst run-stopping grade of any edge defender in the NFL, and the contract's pretty ugly too, right? They have no cap space either. So they really have to start focusing on the draft. And there's 2 really talented edge rushers. One out of Miami, Gregory Rousseau. He, sat out this year due to COVID. He's a freak. 6'7", 265. If he can't get after the quarterback because he's getting double-teamed, he's going to swat down some passes. That's how big this kid is. And Kwity Paye out of Michigan, he's been terrific. Pressures. Michigan's been a disaster. He's been a lone bright spot for that team. I think if Atlanta ends up with any of these 2 players, they would be set. They do have, some solid role players at every level of the defense. You guys know Grady Jarrett. He's terrific. In the middle, Deion Jones, when he's healthy, he's a really good linebacker. And Keanu Neal, when he's healthy, he's pretty good as well. Sometimes he has some great games, sometimes not so much. He's more of a box player. And A.J. Terrell, you know what? These corners, the rookie corners this year have been really bad. He's maybe been the only one who's been okay throughout most of the week. So if they can find a corner the opposite of him, this defense would be all right. There's going to be some players I got to get rid of, right? Todd Gurley, he's a free agent. See you later. Alex Mack, the center, he's about 35 years old. He's only really good in the run game right now. Guess what? Your best weapons are in the pass game. So I feel like that doesn't make sense. He's a free agent. That's about $9 million off of your salary cap there. So that helps out a little bit too. So this is a young offensive line. You have 2 good receivers. You go get a running back in the draft in the 4th or 5th round or whatever. The question mark is going to be Matt Ryan too, right? And Matt Ryan, he's going to be 36 next year. I still think he's a middle-tier quarterback. I think he has some good games and some bad games. It really depends on Julio and Calvin Ridley because that's, a terrific duo of wide receivers, easily top 5 in football. So if they can script up good plays for this offense, and I would keep Raheem Morris on this staff. He took over. They should be 5-2 right now. If Todd Gurley falls before the end zone, that's a win against Detroit. Those 2 losses in his 7 games, New Orleans, who's playing lights out right now. That's what I would do if I was GM. Get myself an offensive-minded coach. Keep Raheem Morris on the staff. I would get a pass rusher. They need to get after the quarterback. We saw what Vic Beasley could do a little bit. Again, he's struggled in other areas. When he went to Tennessee, ended up getting cut. And Dante Fowler Jr. hasn't done really anything for them. They get a freak-like edge rusher. This team will be up and coming. And I think it would be a good transition from Matt Ryan, a few good years left on him with Daboll, to maybe get back in the playoffs for a couple more years.
Okay, so I guess that leaves me with Washington. I don't feel like we're struggling right now, though. Ron Rivera let me step in. He's let me take over his GM role, which thank you, Ron. Thank you. I think we can make something great happen here. We got some young pieces on our defensive line. Montez Sweat, Chase Young. We're looking good. Our front 7. Hey, man, we just came off a huge win against the Steelers. Knocked them off. gave them their first loss on the season. We're feeling good, but I'm looking at the team and I'm saying, you know what? I like the youth movement, but I feel like we need some more veteran leadership in here to kind of push us forward to get to the playoffs, to kind of push us forward to even look towards a Super Bowl maybe. But the three spots I'm really looking at for this team right now, I'm looking at DBs, I'm looking at outside linebackers, and I'm looking at possibly even getting us, a step up at quarterback. So the first thing I'm gonna do, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to let Ryan Kerrigan go in the season, in the off season. I mean, his salary right now is $11.5 million. I'm gonna take all of that. I'm gonna put that towards the cap. I can't be giving him money for a position I don't even really need him to play right now because I have so much youth out there. So you know what? It's just a smarter move. By moving that money there, that's going to open up about $23 million in that cap for Washington right now. So we're feeling nice. I think our main priority, we got to re-sign Brandon Sheriff, our guard, because if we lose him, I think we're going to lose a lot of games because of that. He's a great presence on that offensive line, and he's protecting the quarterback. And when he's there, the rest of that offensive line kind of functions around him. It's almost like he's the center, even though he's not. He's the one who controls most of the floor of the offensive line, and we need to keep him here in order to protect whoever's playing our quarterback position. So looking at it, I think, for the rest of our offensive line additions, we can actually go to the draft and add from there in the later rounds and find pieces to put there. But if I'm looking at linebackers and I'm looking at who's coming up in this offseason as a free agent, I'm thinking maybe bringing in some veteran talent. I know these guys might be old, but I'm looking at a Levanta David, maybe a KJ Wright and a Devondre Campbell coming out of Atlanta. Maybe if I can bring pieces like that here and have someone like that, a standout guy who can cover the pass, who can stop the run and do everything I need in that position right now. Even though I do have someone there who's young, I just feel like having a veteran out there to make the play calls and bring that secureness to the defense, especially in that front seven, one of those guys to do it. So maybe, maybe not. At DB, it's really a two-pronged question because right now our number 2 DB, his contract is coming up to an end, Ronald Darby. And I think at the safety position, we need a bit more versatility out there. We just don't have enough, it doesn't seem like. But you know what? If we're not going to find that in the draft, which it's very possible we could, I think we got to look at a couple more free agents out there. Maybe like someone like Mike Hilton coming out of the Steelers. I know he might control a bigger contract this season because he's been playing lights out while he's out there. But if we give him the money and he can lock that down for us, I like how our situation is looking. Maybe we can bring back Quentin Dunbar. Probably won't happen. He's out there with Seattle. Seattle will probably try to keep him there. Even though he's been injury-ridden this season, I think it would help lock down our secondary. Also, maybe just bring back Ronald Darby. He's only 27 years old. Keep him here on a contract. Lock him in. He's been doing well for us this season. We don't have to teach somebody our whole playbook again, so keep him here and lock him in. And then at the safety position, maybe like a Keanu Neal or a Malik Hooker. These guys, these young guys, 26 and 25, want to bring that youth culture here, but some more veteran experience that's been out in the field who knows what they're doing. Lock that in, and it could be scary for us, especially on that defensive side of the ball. We'll lock everything down. Finally, at that quarterback, I mean, I'm gonna do everything I can to keep Alex Smith around because he showed, hey, you can't stop this boy. He's out there. He's playing well. He's trying to lead us right now, take us all the way to a championship. Who would ever think that? We're tied for the division lead right now with the Giants. The Giants. Oh, my God. Anyways, I just think we're going to keep him around. We're going to have to let Kyle Allen go. And Haskins, he can hold the clipboard for all I care. Looking at the free agent market, it's harsh, man. It's harsh. But I'm thinking maybe Ron – I could get Cam to come back next year, do a little talking to him, $4 or $5 million, bring you two back together. Maybe we just win again. I don't know, but I just feel like we need to upgrade that quarterback position. Cam looks like he could be decent there. Bringing them back together might work. It just might. But the only other option I see for this entire team, and if I want to go haywire with this, forget everything I just said. Everybody who we want, toss them out the window. Any of our people that we're going to sign back, don't sign them. Toss all that money in the pot and go after Dak Prescott. Maybe it could be crazy, but he might just want to get some revenge against Dallas for not signing him to a full-time contract. And he might just come over and play it with us in Washington just to get some revenge. It's possible, and it might be throwing away a lot of our future, but maybe not. we might just want to take the leap. And as a GM, it's going to be one of those two decisions for me. I just don't know which one I'm going to make. But the way I see it, the only thing that we should really change about the Washington football team's future right now, we need to get a real team name, guys. Can't do this football team stuff anymore.
Well, Steve,
All right.
I wanted to say this before we got to Luca. You know, you guys are tied with that division lead with the Giants right now. Let's say you guys don't end up winning the division. You're drafting in the top 10. You don't like Cam. Dak re-signs with the Cowboys. And one of those quarterbacks, you know, fall to you in the top 10. Do you think your Washington football team takes a new gunslinger?
I think so, man, because I don't know how much real other talent there is. I haven't looked at the draft coming up to know how much real talent there is at positions that they need. But I did take a look at that quarterback position. If they do end up not making the playoffs and they fall to a point where they're in the top 10, shoot on that quarterback 100%. Just take a chance. One of those three guys, if they're there, which I doubt any of the three might be, take a chance.
I like it.
Okay, so my team has probably been rebuilding for the last 10 years. And, it's a tough one here in Detroit. So, first off, we need a head coach. Matt Patricia clearly wasn't the answer. And I'm looking at this team, and do we go a defensive-minded head coach? Do we go an offensive-minded head coach? Going with a defensive-minded head coach, it didn't work out so well. But I'm going to do it again. I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens, Don Martindale. I think he's a great fit here in Detroit. He's been with the Ravens for 3 years, guys, since 2018. They have yet to average giving up more than 20 points a game. So I think that's going to be pretty good for a Detroit Lions defense who has been pretty abysmal in the last couple of seasons. Right now, they are second worst in the NFL when it comes to points per game, and they are allowing 29. Last is Dallas. We don't know about them. The Jets have a better points per game average than Detroit. And the Chargers, who just lost 45-0 to a team that Cam Newton threw for 69 passing yards. That's all he had in the game. And they got blown out 45-0. That defense is having a better year than this Detroit Lions team. So I'm going to go with Don Martindale. Of course, he has loaded talent there in Baltimore, and that helps him out a bit. But I liked what I saw last week. Nolan, we touched upon this last week, how they didn't really practice much, and they still locked down that Steelers team. I thought he did a pretty good job. I think his leadership would be really needed there in Detroit. I'm going to hire him. On the offensive side of the football, Matthew Stafford, I got to give him some credit. I mean, he's been doing it with basically nothing since Calvin Johnson left. He's actually been playing better, you can argue, since he's gone. That's how good I think Matthew Stafford is. I think he's an elite talent in this league. I was looking at Eric Bieniemy. I really was. But I think we need to go and address that defensive side of the football, and I'm looking to the draft. You look at Baltimore's staff, you look at Baltimore's defense, their secondary is great. They lost Earl Thomas. He was an elite safety a couple years ago. They shipped him out, and they're still a great team. Really hard to pass on. I'm looking at the draft. I'm looking at Alabama's quarter. Nolan, help me out with the pronunciation here. Surtain. Is that his last? Surtain? Sorry, what? You're on mute, buddy. Surtain, that's it. I like him. Every time I watch him, he's popping off my screen. He can make tackles, and if you put him opposite of Jeff Okudah, that is a young, great secondary. And usually when you're hiring or you're drafting players, you got to look at guys in your division. And in that division, talk about receivers in that division. You got Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, who look like a great 1-2 combo there in Minnesota. Then you go and you have Devontae Adams, and you got to defend him when you have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. And I know Chicago's a mess, but Allen Robinson, he's no pushover either. So you're going to have to need someone to cover him. You can't just throw Jeff Okudah on every single receiver. He's just his first time in the league. So I think we get two young corners. I think it'll really solidify the back end. The pass rush still needs some work. They signed Trey Flowers a lot of money. Every time someone goes to New England, there's always a team that bites and pays them more money. Just like what this team did with Trey Flowers, just like this team did with Matt Patricia, and just like the guy I'm replacing right now in Bob Quinn. All three of those guys came from New England. And Jamie Collins, he comes to Detroit not planning out the way Detroit wants. You can't expect him to have the same success because Bill Belichick, guys, we know he's one of the great offensive minds in history. So it's hard to replicate that. So I'm thinking if you're looking at this team, hiring a defensive-minded head coach to solidify the defense, because Matthew Stafford, you got to give him some help. Guys, they've scored 20 points in every single game this season, but one, and they have a losing record. They've scored 20 or more points in every single game. So the offense clearly is something that I don't think I need to address. I don't need to panic so much. Darrell Bevell, he's done a great job. He's come in. He's been the intern head coach. Brett Favre said he's a brilliant offensive-minded head coach. And when you have a guy like that saying that this guy has potential like that, if I move him back to offensive coordinator, the team seems to like him. Marvin Jones said, I'm liking him. I'm having fun again. So obviously the chemistry in the locker room is there with this head coach. I'd keep him in the locker room, put him back to offensive coordinator. He can just focus on the offensive side. And now Don Martindale comes in. He works on the defense, and we can get this thing rolling back in Detroit. But it's hard, guys. The NFC, it's always a dogfight every single year, especially that division. Minnesota, they're not playing up to standard, but they're still a heck of a football team. And we know about Green Bay. We know about the defense in Chicago. If they can get a quarterback, it's a competitive division. So I think I need to solidify the defense by bringing in Don Martindale, drafting the kid out of Alabama, and just going from there. Matthew Stafford, I still have him for now. I'm going to do whatever I can to protect him if I have to sign another offensive lineman. I think their offensive line is pretty good. I think it's good enough. They've got their run game going with DeAndre Swift. I know he's been hurt, but they drafted him. He's showing some great potential. Kenny Golladay seems to be hurt a lot, but if he can, maybe fix that up, maybe drop the receiver later in the rounds to give some more depth to this team. I think Detroit, it's not hard, guys. It's not hard. What's the worst part of your defense or your team? It's the defense. Try to do something to help their defense. They're putting Jeff Okudah on Julio Jones, and they're putting him on Devontae Adams. You can't do that. You can't do that to a rookie. I know you have high hopes from him. You're just going to diminish his confidence, and you just can't do something like that. His second year in the league, he's going to be better. Bringing in a corner like that, it's going to be a young secondary. You see what they have in Baltimore. They have Marlon Humphrey who can make plays, and they have Marcus Peters. So if you have both of those two guys in Detroit, I think Detroit can be back to being a respectable team. I'm not going to say I can fix it all in one off season, because I don't think I'm that good. I don't think I can even do it in Madden. But when it comes to real life, I think if you solidify the defense, this can be a more respectable team.
Those are all great ideas, guys. So we covered Atlanta, Washington, Detroit. So let's discuss another team that did have a lot of difficulty this weekend, the Philadelphia Eagles. So we witnessed Carson Wentz being benched on Sunday, which in return opened up the opportunity for Jalen Hurts to play. Now we find out today that Doug Peterson announced he's going to be the starting QB against New Orleans next week. So the question is, what do the Eagles do from here? Is it Wentz? Is it Hurts? And is it the right move? Steven, what are your thoughts?
Well, truth be told, Carson Wentz is finding out the reason why it hurts to suck. Dun-dun-dun. You know what I mean? But it's all good. Carson Wentz, you're a broken QB. It's clear to see that. It's no fakeness, no joke to it. You're just not as good as you used to be. You're falling apart faster than anything I've seen, and that's your business, not really mine. I don't want to get into that. I'm not a Philly fan. I've never been a Philly fan. Never been associated with much of Philadelphia's business. There's people here who might talk differently, but that's okay. Let's just look at it this way. Carson Wentz, what are you guys going to do with him in Philadelphia? The best answer is this. He's going to be the highest paid backup QB in the NFL. That's it. Simple. You're going to bring it. You decide to start Jalen Hurts. You can't turn back on that now, because turning back on that might diminish him as a player further down the road. You got to let him grow. Even if he makes mistakes, even if he struggles, you got to let him play from now on. And that's just how it is. So, Carson Wentz, you're a backup QB. The worst answer? He's a $60 million cap headache if they do anything else. If they try to trade him, if they release him, anything else, you're taking that $60 million hit right away. And as a team, I don't think you want to do that, straight up. So you got to sit there and live with this. Live with the mistake of giving him the contract you gave him. Live with the mistake of believing in him when he came out and had a couple good games in the season and then got injured as he normally did, and somebody else came and won a Super Bowl for you, and then you decided to go back to this guy who hasn't shown you much and give him a bunch of money. It is what it is. But Carson Wentz has proven he's just not going to be that guy. He can't be trusted to be that guy. Maybe down the road he'll find more success. But for now, highest paid backup QB in the league. That's all I can see.
I think management kind of saw this coming when you draft a guy like Jalen Hurts in the second round. Everyone's thinking, what are you doing? What are you doing? Carson Wentz, all this money, what are you doing? Like, right? And I think it was a bit of a panic mode for the Eagles because they love Carson Wentz. You talk to Eagles fans, well, if he didn't get hurt, he would have been the MVP. They still would have won a Super Bowl without. Well, we don't know that, first off. We don't know if he would have won the Super Bowl if he was still there. He was playing great football back in 2017. But what's the key part that I just said? 2017. It's 2020. It's 3 years removed. He's been hurt. Every time they get to the playoffs, it seems like he gets hurt. And, guys, he has not had a good year. You can say all the question marks about the offensive line. Yeah, it's terrible. All their starters have gone down. Brandon Brooks didn't even play this season. He's one of the best guards in the National Football League. Look at their receivers. Alshon Jeffrey, he's been banged up. Deshaun Jackson, he's been banged up. Miles Sanders has been hurt for most of the year. But you just cannot tell me that Carson Wentz is playing at an elite level. You look at that game against the Cowboys on Sunday night, I think a couple weeks back. There was a play, and I think if you guys remember, he's rolling out of the pocket. There's no one open. There's someone coming at him, and he's waiting, and then when the guy's 2 feet in front of him, he decides to unload and then fumbles the football, and then he's smiling on the way back to the sidelines. That's what you want from your franchise quarterback? I don't think so. I would have benched him right there, right then. I know the Eagles, they're still in contention. But are you proud of that? Are you proud of being in contention in the NFC? And you're in contention. You're not even winning it. It's the worst division in NFL history, and you're not even winning it. Now, my questions with Jalen Hurts at Alabama didn't look like the greatest passer. It doesn't look like a guy who can go out there and throw like Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. But with the right system, he has potential to be. We saw Lincoln Riley. He does that for everybody. He did that for Kyler Murray, turned him into a Heisman winner. Did that with Baker Mayfield, turned him into a Heisman winner. Can Doug Peterson implement an offense that works for Jalen Hurts? That's going to be the question mark, and I think Doug Peterson's job is on the line here because he has potential now to either save it by having an amazing run, great play calling, putting Hurts in the best position to succeed, or completely failing, and he is the one who made this decision. So maybe, upper management's going to be like, well, why would you bench Wentz if we paid him all this money? So it's a win-loss situation for Doug Peterson. He can either save his job right now or he can lose it. Jalen Hurts, you are the guy in Philly right now, and especially in that city, you better at least win this division because they're probably going to be booing you, even though you only played probably 5 games.
So this is such a deep topic, too, because I do feel bad for Carson Wentz. You come in a situation, they trade all these draft picks to move all the way up to number 2 in the draft. Select Carson Wentz. 2016, whatever, rookie year, he was okay. 2017, and I know he looked great then. You're then injured, and you think your team's done. They're in the water. Everyone thought that. Everyone thought they would be done. Nick Foles comes in. He's the hero. He can get a beer whenever he wants, whenever he's in Philadelphia. Wins him. They build him a statue. He starts the year off hot again. Here comes Carson Wentz. Then he gets injured. Nick Foles brings him, back in the playoffs. They beat the Bears. They nearly beat the Saints, if you don't remember that. They were in that game. And now the question mark is, well, is it Carson Wentz, who, they invested so much in, is going to be the, starting quarterback moving forward? Do they trade him, or is it Nick Foles? And the answer, the whole entire time, it should have been Carson Wentz. And they stuck with that. But there's all these question marks. You have to go to a stadium every single time and see a statue of the guy who was your backup quarterback, who was the hero. All of a sudden, in the second round, they draft a quarterback after they give you a $100 million guaranteed contract. Like, it's so confusing. And that would mess with his head quite a bit. All these injuries happen. He struggles. He has been the worst quarterback this season. But he was a pretty big issue. I think there's a bigger problem in Philadelphia, and I think it's Doug Peterson. And here's the reason why. Frank Reich was arguably one of the main reasons they won the Super Bowl that year. Let's look at their offense. Frank Reich calling the plays, offensive coordinator. 7th in total yards per game, 13th in passing yards per game, 3rd in rushing, 3rd in scoring. He leaves, goes to Indianapolis. Mike Groh becomes the offensive coordinator. They go 14th in total yards, 9th in passing, 20th in rushing, 15th in scoring. That was in 2018 and 2019 combined. This season, Doug Peterson, he's calling the plays now. He's calling the shots. 28th in total yards per game, 27th in passing per game, 13th in rushing, and he doesn't even run the ball. Miles Sanders has been terrific this year, averaging 6 yards a pop. And nope, I'm only going to give him 10 touches. It's ridiculous. They're 25th in scoring. Here's the Colts. Frank Reich with Andrew Luck in his final year, Jacoby Brissett, Brian Hoyer, and Phillip Rivers, who basically has half an arm. 15th in yards per game, 15th in passing, 15th in rushing, 11th in scoring. So right down the middle in a pretty good scoring team, that is going to be the only thing that can save Carson Wentz. He's done in Philadelphia. If the Eagles can make a trade and get Carson Wentz to Indianapolis, guess how much money the Colts have next year in 2021? $75 million in cap space. That would be the only team that would take him and the only team that makes sense because of that relationship between Reich and Carson Wentz. His time in Philly is done. It's sad to see. Jalen Hurts, he's going to struggle this Sunday because New Orleans is balling right now, but he can do a little bit more. He can run the ball quite a bit more. We know that. There's going to be a way different playbook between him and Wentz. The only thing is, they're still not going to be a playoff team. They're still going to struggle. Can they get it all together next year and maybe find the right coach for Jalen Hurts too? Doug Peterson's time might be done, just like Carson Wentz's.
Yeah, those are all great points. You guys are definitely right. Jalen is definitely the way to go, not to hold off any longer. Just do it now. So let's touch on one more team. So Pittsburgh, guys, their first loss of the season, the game score ending in 17-23, Washington taking home that win. So Luca, tell me, is Pittsburgh in trouble?
Steven, you're doing a heck of a job down there in Washington, let me tell you. If you're looking at Pittsburgh right now, guys, let's face it, they're one-dimensional. They're not scary at all because they can't run the football. And when you can't run the football and you have a 37-year-old quarterback back there, chances of success are not high, especially when you have to play the greatest quarterback with an arm talent we've seen since Aaron Rodgers came into this league. It's insane. You are not going to go to Arrowhead and outduel Mahomes because he does this without a run game. But Ben, his receivers, guys, when they're throwing the ball down the field, have not been great. This offense is a lot of smoke screens, a lot of underneath routes to get the ball quickly into these receivers' hands and make them have yards after the catch. That's what their offense is. They don't go deep as much anymore. They try to here and there, but the success rate isn't high. Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster. You see, guys, they're in a lot of 3 and 4s, 3 and 5s, and they convert because they have small receivers that are quick and agile and can get the first down. But they don't scare me at all. I mean, if you look at their schedule, Cleveland was the best team they beat. And, yes, they had a great win over the weekend for Tennessee. But before that, they haven't really been that impressive, at least in my eyes. You look at them, they beat Denver. Okay, great, you beat Denver. I think Drew Lock was out that game. You just beat Philly, who we just said is a total mess. The Giants, they're starting to come along. Okay, Dallas, realistically, you should have lost that game, but the refs bailed you out. Tennessee, they missed a field goal to go in OT. You never know what's going to happen. And then they beat Baltimore twice. One time is against their practice squad, and they barely pulled that one out. So they have not been the 11-0 team. They haven't been unbeatable, as you would think an 11-0 team would be. And I just think the defense, yeah, they're going to keep them in games. But that offense, guys, if you cannot get your run game going, they're going to struggle. I can see them getting bounced round number 1, seriously, because when it comes down to it, they don't get that bye week. And you go up against a team that can stop the pass and has a good secondary. What if New England sneaks in, guys? Let's just say they sneak in. We know how good their secondary is. Can they run the football on them? I don't know if they're going to be doing it to a high success. Even Miami, can they beat a team like Miami if they were to play? Teams like that who have good secondaries, I don't know. I just don't think they're as dominant as everyone thinks they are.
So, coming to the Steelers, I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm really worried about them. Do I think they're in trouble? Maybe, I don't know. These guys are hit and miss. I expect them to lose this game. I'm not going to lie to you. I just thought that Washington defense would create problems for them because I like what they do and the way they move on the field, or I should say my defense, the way they move on the field. We're killers out there. We lock it down a lot at the times. But the problem is the rest of the schedule coming up right now for the Steelers. I'm expecting them to win maybe 2 of these games and possibly lose 2 of these last 4. They got Buffalo coming off a Josh Allen showcase that was unexpected. After that, they got Cincinnati, who threw hands with Miami, so they might as well just throw hands with Pittsburgh too. And then you have Indy, whose defense is very similar to the team they just lost to. And then after that, Cleveland in what could potentially be a division title game if things go a certain way down the line, right? So the real question on this game that we saw, Luca, you already touched on it, where's the run game? I mean, Ben threw for 53 passes this game. Last game it was 56, so that's over 100 passes in the last 2 games. This game, 14 rushes for 21 yards? If you can't run the ball, people are going to know you're just going to pass it. They're going to defend you. They're going to lock you down. And from the amount of drops I've seen in the past 2 weeks from the Steelers, that's an upsetting thing too. The thing that cost them this game, batted balls getting batted in the air? That happened so much this game. I thought Ben could have thrown at least 3 to 4 picks from the amount of times I've seen that ball in the air. It's just defenders didn't have a quick enough time to react. So it's scary. And I think that they got to look at this and they got to really take this loss in stride and say to themselves that, you know what, look at the weak points of our game, assess their offense, and try to fix those problems. So it's going to be on Randy Fitchner and Ben's shoulders to change up the offense. But, yeah, I expect at least one more loss from these guys headed down this road.
I think they're in trouble. I think they're one of the more overrated teams in football. You can't run the ball. Their passing scheme is quick, get the ball out. Teams are going to figure that out. They're just going to go quarters. And also you have 3 receivers, and one being a tight end, who are none of them are natural hand catchers. All of them take it in the chest, and that's why we see all these drops, right? So that's pretty bad. You look at the front 7, they're terrific. We get it. TJ Watt is an absolute monster. We saw he wasn't getting as much pressure when there was no Bud Dupree. The secondary, they focused so hard on shutting down Terry McLaurin. They did a great job. Steven Sims kicked your guy's butt. J.D. McKissick, he left him open on every play, and he gained 10 yards. Right? So for me, what I'm seeing from this team is they are so one-dimensional, which you guys have mentioned. Their defense will stop the run. They will get after the quarterback. They match up really well with teams who want to run the ball, like Cleveland, right? Cleveland wants to run it down your throat with Nick Chubb. He's averaging 6 yards, a pop. Kareem Hunt, we know what he can do. With Tennessee, right? So, okay, Derrick Henry, when he's cooking, man, they're unstoppable. But when they have to rely on Ryan Tannehill, maybe not so much, but they're still a good team. Another question mark from this past game. You're up 14-0. The Reds nearly ended them this week, right? Logan Thomas picked up a first down. That was a clear first down. That was one of the worst spots I've ever seen. So that has Washington stuck in their own territory. And, all right, here come the Steelers. And Big Ben. Your name is Big Ben. You're 6'5". Just QB sneak it. You're at the inches mark. Just go and punch it in. No, we'll give it to Benny Snell and we'll get stuffed again. So many question marks surrounding this team. They will not be playing in the AFC Championship. I think Buffalo is a better team. I think Indianapolis could be a better team. And maybe this is just an overreaction. Maybe it's an overreaction and it was just a bad game. We said this a little bit last week, right? We said, Baltimore did some things that were a bit surprising, especially with RG3. Could you imagine getting Patrick Mahomes, a Tyreek Hill, a Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins? Yeah, that game could be ugly. They are in trouble right now. I don't know the AFC Championship.
That's an L.
Yeah, that was definitely a surprising loss for sure. For what I witnessed, I wasn't expecting them to lose to Washington. I thought it would be against a more competitive team. So let's discuss our top 5 power ranking teams after week 13. So I'm going to get us started real quick here, guys. So at number 5, for the first time to make it onto my list, is the Cleveland Browns. They played an amazing game against Tennessee. I was so impressed with their performance. Number 4, I have a tie here. It was really difficult for me to pick between. So I have Green Bay and Buffalo tied. They've both won their past couple games like back-to-back, and they both kind of started off slow, but then managed to really come forward and take home the win in the end. So it was difficult for me to pick between. The rest of my list is pretty much the same. I still have New Orleans at 3rd. I have Pittsburgh still at 7. Yeah, they had that huge loss, but they're still 11-1. And until I see more consecutive losses from them, I can't really move them out of that spot. And then Kansas City at number 1.
Okay, guys, number 5, I got the Rams. I don't like Green Bay. I really don't like Green Bay, and I just think if they were to meet up, I think the Rams could edge them out. Number 4, I'm moving the Saints down. They were almost going to blow that game against the Falcons, and yeah, they're doing some things with Taysom Hill, but they don't look as good. Number 3, I'm moving Pittsburgh down. I'm sorry, I don't like what they've been doing. They've had a lot of tough games this year. I'm moving them down. They're playing my number 2 ranked team on Sunday night, and that's the Buffalo Bills. I think Buffalo is going to win that game, and you're going to see why I have them ahead on this list. And number 1, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelce. You guys know the rest.
Wow. Pretty similar list to me. It was so tough because Cleveland, I do want to move up, but they kind of gave up in that second half. I'm with you, Luca. Green Bay, they cannot stop the run. There is question marks all over the place, but Aaron Rodgers and Devonta Adams, they are rocking and rolling right now. They would be maybe 6. 5, Rams. Offense, when they're clicking, is solid. You're basically relying. Here's your whole plan. Jared Goff, don't make a mistake because our defense is that damn good. 4, I moved them way down. Pittsburgh, they're plummeting down the board. 3, I actually put Buffalo here. And for me, the only reason they're not 2 is New Orleans defense has been the best defense in football over the last couple of weeks. And I know they basically faced a college wide receiver. I get that. They just look good right now. Everything's clicking for them. And I think once Drew Brees is healthy, maybe they'll be okay. I have no trust in Taysom Hill, but they just edge out Buffalo. And one, you know who it is, Chiefs.
All right, let's get it popping. At number 5, we got the Cleveland Browns. First winning season since 2007. I got to give y'all some for that. At number 4, I got the Buffalo Bills. Listen, man, my guy Jaheim Allen, you out there doing your thing? These guys are going to be a scary out in the postseason. Bet that. Number 3, I moved the Pittsburgh Steelers down. You guys let this slip against Washington. Man, a lot of them flaws were caught on display, so it's gonna hurt y'all. Number 2, I got the New Orleans Saints. That guy Taysom Hill, that supposed quarterback, he threw his first TD. Good for you, man. Proud for you that. Tight win over Atlanta. Cool. Hold down second place. Number 1, it was a TD, guys. He caught that ball, man. They should have challenged it. He caught that ball. Number 1, Kansas City. They're going to keep it going, no doubt. Let's go.
Okay, so there you have it, our top 5 picks heading into week 14. That concludes our episode for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Touchdown with True Sports, brought to you by Pickups, your everything on demand delivery app. We'll see you next week.